I want to share with you the secrets on how to never freeze when you're presenting. Hi, my name's Colin Boyd. I help coaches and course creators build high converting presentations that get them clients every single time they speak. I've got over 10,000 students around the world, and I'm in a unique position to know what really works and what doesn't. In this video, I want to share with you some secrets of what really works when you're building your coaching and your speaking business. So I've got two kids. I've got an 11-year-old and a 9-year-old, and they're kind of at that stage now where at school, they're getting asked by their teacher to do little presentations, like little speeches, right? And this just makes my day. Like, it makes me so excited when they come home with a speech. They're always like, okay, Dad, I've got to make this project, right? We've got to do it on like a big piece of cardboard and so forth. And then they're like, and then I've got to do a presentation about it. And for me, I'm just like, okay, the presentation is the most important part of this project. And they're like, no, the cardboard is and I'm like, no, the presentation, right? Now, obviously I'm very biased because that's what I teach, but I've got them up in the living room practicing. And so often they'll say to me, they'll go, Dad, everyone else who's doing their speeches, they just physically read what they've written on a piece of paper, right? They've got a letter and they're just reading it. And I'm like, that's not a speech, guys. That's a reading, right? And that's okay when you're 5 or when you're 7, but it's not okay when you're 27 or 37. And so make sure, this is the first big idea I want you to understand. Don't see your speech as a reading. Do not see your speech as a reading. Because if you see it as a reading, what's going to happen is you are going to try to get it exactly right. And the reason why people freeze on stage is because they're trying to get everything right. They're trying to get everything perfect. So the first secret to never freeze on stage is to realize that no one knows what you're supposed to say. Have you ever realized that? Like, so often when you're doing a speech, you're the only one who knows what you were supposed to say. And so maybe you've got a PowerPoint, you're doing a presentation, or you're doing a webinar, you've got the presentation, and you go to say something, and then you go, oh, no, actually, I didn't mean to say that. Let me just change it. Have you ever seen anyone do that? Like, they kind of stop and then they talk to themselves, and then everyone in the audience is like, what's happening? I don't know what's happening. They're frozen. Why? Because they're trying to get it right. They're trying to get it exactly how they think it's supposed to say. Let me let you in on a secret. No one knows what you're supposed to say. I say this to my kids all the time. I'm like, guys, no one knows what you're supposed to say. Like, don't make it a reading. Don't bring up your reading. In fact, usually when I'm teaching my kids, I draw pictures. And so they've got like 5 little pictures that we draw. Like, it could be a hand to say hi, and then a cat. That might be the first story they tell, and then like some other picture, right? And so they literally just talk off pictures because I want to teach them that there's no perfect way to say it. You've got to make it a conversation. The audience doesn't know what you're supposed to say. So that's the first thing. Your audience doesn't know what you are supposed to say. The second secret to never freeze on stage is to practice it into your body. So often the connection between the mind and the mouth doesn't happen right away. Have you ever felt like you've been trying to get a point out and you're just struggling? It's like you have an idea of what you're trying to say, but you can't get it out of your mouth. That usually happens because you haven't practiced your presentation out loud. I was working with a client recently. He had a big presentation coming up. It was to about 5,000 people. And it was a major conference. And he practiced his like 40-minute keynote about 80 times. 80 times. He literally went through it end to end, practicing it. So when he got on stage, do you think it just came out naturally? 1,000%, right? What it did, it allowed him to have the modality and the flexibility to engage with the audience and not worry about his content, because his content was in his body. And so what I'm saying is that you have to practice it out loud. So your presentation, practice it multiple times. Now, I'm not saying you have to practice it 80 times, but at least 5, maybe 10 times. Practice it out loud. Go through it, practice it so that when you deliver it, it's like your 11th, 12th, 13th time that you're delivering it in front of the audience. And when you do that, that is when you can engage with the audience and truly have a great experience. The third secret to never freaking out or never freezing is to know that you don't have to fill every second of your time on a stage with words. I just did an awkward long pause just then. But you are allowed to have some silence. You're allowed to have silence. You don't have to fill every single second of your presentation or even your video, whatever you're doing, with words. In fact, without pausing, it reduces the impact of what you're saying. So what we notice is that with pausing, there's two types of pausing. There is an anticipation pause and a reflection pause. And so if you think about it, if you're going to say something really important, like maybe I'll say something like this. So what I want to share with you is one of the biggest ideas that has completely changed the way that I speak. This idea is, and then you say the idea. So if you pause a little bit, it creates an anticipation for people about what you're going to say. Then after you say it, you share your point. It is realizing that no one knows what you're supposed to say. And then you just stop for a second. Even if it's just a second or two, you give it that little extra bit of time, that silence. It allows people to reflect on the idea. And if you're sharing quite complex ideas, it allows people to catch up with what you're actually saying. And so I want you to realize that having silence, having pausing moments, amplifies the authority and the presence you have on stage. It doesn't diminish. And so when you think about your speech, don't think about, if you've got a 40-minute presentation, don't think I have to fill 40 minutes of that time with words. No, you probably only have to fill about maybe 30 minutes with words. And some of the other time it could be questions, it could be pausing, it could be showing pictures. Like there's so much more to a presentation than just talking. And so rather than focusing on words all the time, allow yourself some silence and some space, and it will actually bring more presence to what you do. So these three big ideas is realizing that no one knows what you were supposed to say. Like let yourself off the hook and you're going to feel a lot better. The second big idea, which was practice it into your body, like get it practiced into your body so that when you speak, it just comes out naturally. And the third big idea is allow silence. Those three things will help you to not freeze when you're speaking next time on stage or on a webinar. Hey, I'd love to know what's been most helpful, what's been most valuable. Let me know in the chat down below or in the comments down below. And maybe even let me know what's your biggest challenge when it comes to speaking on a stage. Let me know what that challenge is. And if you're really serious about mastering the art of speaking and even selling on a live or a virtual webinar, especially if you're a coach or a course creator, you should go and do our free workshop, which is called How to Sell from Webinar and Virtual Stages. That's going to show you exactly the structure of your presentations, how to take your presentations to a whole new level so you can actually get clients. There's a link for that down below, or you can go to colinboyd.co/workshop and you can go and check that out completely for free. So let me know down below what's been most helpful, what's your biggest challenge. Love to interact with you. Subscribe to the show and we'll see you on the next video.